What's up, everybody? Sorry for the low angle here. I'm testing out a new tripod for easier visuals at the bottom. This is Monday Gi Basics Jiu-Jitsu. Thanks for coming. And today what we're going to be working on is some turtle position stuff. This is Bob. He's in turtle position essentially. So we'll be working off of that. So here we go. All right, so to start, let's talk a little bit about the turtle position. If you do the turtle position correctly, you're actually going to be in very tight. You notice how it's kind of like a child's pose in yoga if you're a yoga person. So Bob's as tight as he can get. Now, as a bigger person, I can't particularly get that tight. You'll notice that if I go to turtle, I'll try to sit back as much as I can, but I still have a lot of space where I could be taken advantage of, essentially mounted here and here. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a position for me, because even though it's easy to get the back taken, I also have, because I'm larger, I'm also harder to choke. So the ideal situation, of course, is a very tight defense here until you're ready to switch to an offense. So you'll notice that that Bob here, he's pretty much as tight as you can get. You want your elbows in tight. Ideally, they would be kind of up in your hip area here. So your elbows are up and tight up in the hip area, and you're protecting your neck by keeping your hands up, because there's all kinds of chokes that can happen if you're just sitting there. Okay, you can't just sit there. You have to be at least somewhat mobile. But I will say that this is another one of those positions where your reaction is dependent on your opponent's action. Okay, because it's very hard to be aggressive when you're on the bottom, but there are things that you can do. Okay, so I want to show you some of those things that I use, that I like to use and are effective for me and are generally effective for everybody. Okay, so when you're in the turtle position and you're the guy on top, right? Your hands can determine how stuck your opponent is, right? So if your opponent gets to his hands and knees like this, and you want to control them, the first thing you want to make sure that you do is that your chest is on their back like this. Okay, that way it keeps them pressed down. If I give them any space, some people can just slide right out of this. So I want to keep this pressed down. Now, I also would like some sort of underhook. So on one of these sides, again, if I'm attacking, I'm either going to have an overhook on one side and then an underhook on the other. I guess that's an overhook and that's an underhook, right? So I want one under an arm and I want one over the shoulder here. And it doesn't matter really which one. When you play with this position, you'll start to feel like one side is better than the other. So you can decide which way you like to go. Okay. So if I like to always play the underhook, the underhook on the side that I'm already on. So since I'm more on Bob's left here, I like to go under on that side. If I was over here, I'd want to go under on that side, because to go over, I have to move my arm like this instead of keeping it like this, so I can keep my chest attached. So the rule here, I would say, is if you want to go this way, this should be the underhook side. And if you're on that side, that should be the underhook side. So you're under their arms, okay? Okay, so I want to take one quick step back, and I want to talk about ways you might end up in turtle position, okay? So remember, we talked about in previous classes about getting to your knees. So you could get to your knees from side control, right? If I'm underneath Bob, he's on top of me like this, right? And so I turn into Bob like this. I can turn in and I can come right up to my knees. And now, see, Bob's on top of me, I'm in turtle. All right. Same could be, I could kind of do it the other direction as well. So if I'm underneath Bob like this, and I'm able to clear this arm away like one of our escapes from side control, I can come out to this side and come up to my knees. And of course, if Bob were a little more active, he's kind of lazy, you know, he would follow me and be on my back, so he'd be in turtle position. So those are a couple of ways you could end up there just from side control. You might end up there potentially from having your back taken, or and then it would go, could go back and forth between taking the back and then getting back into the turtle, and then taking the back and get back into turtle. There are a few other random times, like if I'm doing a takedown and I mess up, like if I shoot for a takedown and I mess up, I'm going to be on turtle. They're going to sprawl back and going to be on turtle. But that's okay. It's not the end of the world if you do that. You're at least attempting to attack in that scenario, and maybe you want to use that attempted single leg or whatever to switch to guard or half guard or whatever, and that's perfectly legitimate. It's much safer than trying to pull guard in that scenario. So, okay. So when you're in this position, like I said earlier, we've talked about a little bit about how we get to this position. When you're in this position, you want to consider where your opponent's hands are. Again, because there are two ways that you can approach this, all right? I'm going to approach it from a head-on position today, okay? Mainly because the head-on position is a pretty strong position. I can also go around to a side and attack from a side and be that way. So there's a couple ways that we could approach this scenario, and so this is one of those ways, okay? So imagine this arm is going to go under his head, and then this arm is going to connect and go here. So now I'm pressing my chest down onto my opponent, and I'm grabbing my hands together, okay? So your opponent will be stronger than Bob, obviously. Like if I'm here like this, my opponent does that to me, I'm not going to be in a bad position. But if I'm like this is like a wrestler's position, and you're definitely giving a lot away in jiu-jitsu if you're sitting like this. So when you're in turtle position, you want to be down and then also defending your neck as tight as you can like this and moving from there, okay? So let's assume Bob gets me in turtle, right? So I'm in turtle, he's on top of me, on top of my back. Okay, that's where we're going to go from here. So the first move I want to do here is actually fairly, it's using your hands. It's a 2-on-1 scenario, and it works real well against somebody who just stays in line with you, maybe tries to try to attack your lapels or tries to choke you. There's a 10-finger choke we're going to go over in a little bit, but in those scenarios. So Bob's on top of me. So we readjust Bob's legs here so he can be a little more stable. Here we go. And so Bob's on my back, like so. All right. So what I'm going to do is this hand right here. So it's choking me. So I'm actually going to use one hand to kind of pull it away a little bit. And then I'm going to use the other hand to get inside. And then I'm going to pry. Now I've got 2-on-1 on this hand. All right. So I put 2-on-1 on this hand like this. That's the first step. And this can be a trick because it might take a while for you to get that 2-on-1 because of how strong your opponent might be or how stuck up in here your opponent might be. But again, if you can go hand inside the bicep and pull it open a little bit, then you should be able to get this thumb inside. And then once that thumb's inside, you can grip and then get that other thumb inside and then use 2-on-1 to push away, okay? And maybe even your opponent's fiddling around with your lapel, and while he's doing that, you grab the 2-on-1, right? So I'm going to grab 2-on-1, and then I'm going to take my head, and I'm going to put it in my opponent's bicep like this. Okay, so now I'm 2-on-1 in the bicep, and I'm going to just push down on the bicep, or push down on the arm so it stays sort of rooted to the mat. And then I'm just going to drive my head. And as I drive my head, you'll notice my opponent starts to go over. And when he does, then I can come up and get side control or whatever controlling position I end up in. And this works very effectively. It's a super, super simple option, but it only works if your opponent does what I just did, which is puts their arm here and it's a little bit loose, right? When if they're doing the other side, you're going to want to use the other side because you can't do it to an overhook. It has to be, or sorry, an underhook. You can't do it to an arm that comes underneath your arm. You have to do it to an arm that comes across your throat. So whatever side they happen to be choking you on, that's the arm you want to do. So in this other, so in a regular case, if I'm here, right, here's the head side, that's the side I want to grab. If I'm on this side, and my arm's over that part of the shoulder like that, then this is the side I want to grab. Okay? So let me show you that one more time and explain kind of, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious how it works. There's leverage there. And if you got 2-on-1 even, it's going to be real hard for your opponent to try to like squirm out of it. But worst case scenario, you might come up to a standing position. That actually happened to me one time. I didn't quite, you know, put all the pieces together for the movement correctly, and it ended up coming up to a standing position. So because of the way they reacted, I didn't correctly apply the base part of the technique, and they were able to stand up. Okay. So again, over here, your opponent's on top of you like so. So you're going to get 2-on-1 on this arm. And the best way to get 2-on-1 is to start with grabbing this arm and pulling it out and down. Then this hand comes in, thumb inside. And once the thumb's in, then you can come down the wrist. And then once the wrist is gripped, you come in and grab the other wrist, the other side. Then you take your head, swirl it around into the bicep, push the hand to the mat, and then drive. When they roll over, then you can come up and side control. That would be my preference in that particular move set, to come into side control. You might be able to pull off mount if you have the dexterity, and that's a position you like to go to. But again, as a bigger guy, I prefer side control. So side control is my home base. It's where I go to, and I make all my attacks from. And when I'm actually trying to win. Fun thing about Jiu-Jitsu, this is a side note, is when you develop your game, which is what the hope of this basics class is to help start you developing a basic Jiu-Jitsu game, and you start to then develop your more advanced game, what advanced positions you want to go to. You can then, once you're good at those positions, once you've decided these are the positions I want to get good at, this is a position, advanced position or whatever that I want to get good at, then you can, once you're good at it, now maybe you beat everybody with that position, or maybe it's just not fun for you anymore because you're constantly hitting somebody with a Kimura, or you're constantly hitting somebody with Americana, or you're constantly doing X, Y, or Z. The great thing about Jiu-Jitsu is you can change your mind. You can be like, all right, I'm really good at side control. Now I want to try to expand my repertoire by moving into mount. Or I want to expand my repertoire by moving into, only collar chokes from the guard or whatever. And so you try to set yourself up for those things. And so in this situation, like I could set myself up for something like that if I wanted to. So anyway, that is the 2-on-1. And since it does require a little bit of strength for those of you who are watching on YouTube, this would be considered a birth transition because you're using, force and pressure to get your opponent to do what you want to. All right. Now this next one is going to be a nice transition that I like to do, and it's colloquially referred to as as the fat guy roll. And I can say that because I am. But the way it works is your opponent, when your opponent gets to the side. So let's say so now you're from the front. You've dodged all the chokes. Your opponent's like, okay, I'm going to go to the side. So your opponent decides to play a traditional side control from the back, the turtle side control. So they're here like this, and maybe they've got this hand. Try to grasp this hand, because what they're gonna do generally is you're gonna try to grab this hand here and pull this arm out, and then you're gonna try to you're gonna try to control this arm to break that arm down. Remember, because the table will fall if it only has 3 legs, and then pressure is pushed on the missing leg, right? So if I go here and I pull this arm down and I start to let you go, then I can fall on you like this, and now I'm in side control, right? The beautiful thing is and it also offers hip control, because I want to control the hip. This is what a lot of guys do. They'll reach in here and they'll grab this wrist, just like that. Now for me, I actually want you to do that. Like I said, this is called the fat guy roll, right? You can go. It might also be called like a wrestler's roll or something like that. I don't know any other technical term for it, but it works because you're basically kind of like when you're in mount. You're trapping the arm and you're rolling them over. Okay, so if you're rolling to the side that they are trapped on. So so if I'm here, right, and I've got this arm, and I'm trying to think of what I want to do, you know, it's real easy for a person to like pinch this arm down, essentially sticking this hand and then rolling over the shoulder. All right. So let me kind of show you what it looks like without a dummy, and then let's see what I can do for you with Bob. All right. So if I'm in turtle position and my opponent reaches here and tries to grab my arm, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to grab the arm high up on the elbow if I can. I'm up here on the elbow if I can. So I'm high up on the elbow, I'm grabbing the arm. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to shoot it straight back. Because with that arm in tow, I'm just going to roll off to the side like this. And what happens is your opponent's on top of you. They're on top of you. They can't escape. Now they flipped over to the other side, and you come up like this. And now you're again in the side control. Okay, so I'll try to show you what that looks like with a dummy. I just wanted to show you the physical movement here. I'll show you one more time, because the leg drop, this isn't the only time you actually use a move like this. There's an omoplata escape where you do this exact same move, except for you roll the other way. So instead of rolling, no, you still roll away from your opponent. But so imagine again, my opponent's on this side, his arm's over my shoulder. He's reached down to grab this wrist. So I'm going to hook that wrist like this. I'm just going to keep it in above the elbow real tight. Drop this foot, roll. And then as I roll over, he ends up over here. And I come up on top. Okay? So let me see if I can't show you that with Bob here, because it's always a little tricky. I try to get partners to come and help me, but no one wants to. So maybe it's that they don't want to, so they don't have time. It's an odd time, right? Okay. So Bob's going to be on top. Actually, I'm going to put him on the other side, so I can roll to my right. And it works both ways. Super easy. So Bob's on top of me. Oh, Bob. I'll just crawl underneath you. You're home laughing at me. I know it. This, like I said, this is hard to do with a dummy. If I had somebody else to put it on top of me, I'd make it a lot easier. Let's see if we can't get him up here. There we go. A little more backpack style. Okay. All right. So most of the time, people will have one arm over. So one arm over my head and one arm under, like this. And let's just be in turtle. So we're here in turtle. Imagine he's trying to control this arm, right? So I'm going to hook this arm like this. I'm going to drop this leg back like this, roll over, see what happens. Bob just comes right over, and I can put this arm inside so I can immediately sit up into a side control position. I can control this inside arm position, and I can immediately come up to side control, okay? So, see if I can do that one more time. And again, you guys can laugh at me from home about how it looks. Maybe I'll try to roll him the other way, see if we can get him easier that way. All right. So again, you've got usually one arm over the head, one arm underneath. And this is, again, if your opponent tries to grab this arm. I will also say that that arm grab is an old wrestling move. So it's common for wrestlers to use this move to try to keep you from posting on this. Because if I can post on this, then I can sit out and come through. So it's common for wrestlers to reach under and grab that. So if Bob here reaches under and grabs my wrist, like so. Come on, Bob. Okay. So I'm gonna grab his elbow, above his elbow. It's harder if I don't get his elbow because they can usually pull out. So grab above the elbow like this. Then this leg goes straight back, and then I roll over this arm. Bob goes flying. I go here like this. I turn, and I come up. Now I'm in side control, and I'm good to go. There's also a thing where it's also common because of wrestlers and because of MMA for me to grab in here and actually punch this way. So the defender tries to defend on this side, and then I hammer fist over here, right? And then they try to defend on that side, and then I can grab this. And that's a common way that people will try to keep you from defending yourself too. And in that respect, you still get the same motion. So my head's down, try not to get punched, boom, defend. I come over here, boom, try to hammer fist, defend, block. Once the block happens, he's gonna hold my arm here, drop that leg, and then roll over the shoulder. And I'm gonna go, ah, just like this. And then Bob is gonna end up in side control. Okay? So that is, again, for those of you who watch my YouTube videos, that is more of a water motion because you are responding to your opponent this time. You're not trying to force anything. You're actually using leverage and fluidity to get your body to move, okay? So those are the two that I want to go over for today. Now let's talk about the submission here, okay? So the first submission I want to go over is 10-finger choke. Actually, maybe I'll go over two just because I think we have time for it. Just triple check that and get back to you guys. Quick time check. Yep, we got time. Okay. So we'll go over two submissions and again, what your thoughts should be. So again, if you're real good at being tight in the turtle position, and I will say that's most smaller people are, you can get real good at keeping real tight and then using your hands to sort of fight and create space that you need in order for these moves to work. If you're a bigger guy like me, you're basically saying, here, take my back. Like, it's really hard for me to get in real deep with my elbows in real deep. And a lot of times what I'll actually do is if somebody comes to one side, I'll just hunker into that side like this and give them this side. Be like, take that hook. I only need to defend against one. And this is the one I'm going to choose. So I'll usually come in here like this and kind of defend this side to keep from getting hooked in. And then I'll try to follow that side too so that the hook is only on the one side and not the other, okay? So there are, like I said, two submissions I want to go over from this and what you should be looking for, okay? So submission number one is going to be the 10-finger choke, all right? This is a fairly aggressive choke. And it is common amongst competitors. So when you are being choked like this, go, yep, that's 10-finger choke. And the way it works is your first step is when you come to the front of the head, you're actually going to try to get what we call a wrestler's chin strap. Okay? So it's going to be hard to show on Bob here because he doesn't have a chin. But just imagine that Bob did have a chin. All right? So Bob's got a chin. So I'm going to take my hand. I'm actually going to put it on Bob's chin like this. I'm going to be over Bob. I'm going to put it on his chin like this. And what I'm doing is I'm putting his chin in my palm. Okay? So kind of, see if I can get this on both videos here. It's kind of like this. All right? But actually the thumbs, it's hard to do because your thumb's on the other side. Thumbs in towards the throat because you see that's where it is. So if I was underneath somebody's chin, right, their head was down here, that means their throat is up here. So my thumb is throat side. So my thumb is throat side on this one, okay? So my thumb gets in here like this, and then my other hand comes underneath, and it's gonna support my other hand. So it's gonna be like this, and it's gonna be like this, just like this, all right? So watch what happens when I just have his head, see if you can see this. If this was a normal person's head, he's a little big for Bob here, but if this was a normal person's head, and the head stayed on my stomach as I lifted him up, right? See how his head pushes down? So again, if his head's here, and I'm on top, and I lift him up, his head kind of pushes down like that. So how the 10-finger choke works is the hand goes inside and grabs the chin, the other hand goes inside, grabs the other hand, and then you sit up and you choke them like this. You're using all 10 fingers to try to choke them. So you see how I'm like lifting him up. This is the 10-finger choke, okay? And it works real well off of a sprawl, okay? And for those of you who don't know what a sprawl essentially is when you're on your opponent and you're on your feet like this, okay? Now again, if he was on his elbows, if he actually had elbows, because sometimes it seems like he doesn't, he'd be up higher and I'd be up higher. So off of a sprawl position, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use one of these. Just make it easier. Gotta work with what you got, right? So here's your guy and you're sprawling. Okay, so he's up here and you're sprawling on your guy. Okay, so I'm here like this. Okay, so I'm gonna reach under chin strap, reach under double chin strap. Now, drop back down to my knees and lift him up. See, so there's his head. I need a better angle. Sorry, guys. Try that again. There we go. Better angle. Okay. So sprawl, like so. I'm gonna reach underneath, grab his chin, reach underneath, grab my wrists. Boom. Now I'm gonna be here. I'm just gonna lift his head up like this, and my thumb gonna go like this and choke him. Okay. So that is your that's your 10-finger choke. Now, how do you defend against that? Well, first thing you have to remember is that it exists. Okay, this choke can be used in both gi and no gi. So whatever your poison is, this can actually be good either way. So the first thing you have to recognize is the chin strap. Are they chin strapping you? If the answer is yes, then you're probably seconds away from doom. So if you start with that first move that I showed you, a 2-on-1, this can work real well to keep you, because when you do this move, if you do it wrong, I should say, no, let me rephrase that. There's a more correct way and a less correct way to do it, okay? Some people actually do this just from regular turtle position. So if I was on my knees, right? But see, here's the difference. So if I'm on my knees like this and I reach down, see how much space there is in my arm out here? Like I have a whole wing going on. right? And it's real easy for my opponent to do what I want them to do, what you want to do to defend this. You want to reach up with this hand and grab this elbow right here and pull it down and out like this. Then you use the other hand to grab the wrist. You pull it off and you go your 2-on-1. And there's your 2-on-1. Super easy, right? So if you know how to do that defense that I showed you, or sorry, that transition that I showed you, it's basically a defense as well, right? So if I'm here, but if I'm here and I'm sprawled, right? See how I'm sprawled? My arm's now not out here. It's actually down in here, right? But you still got to try to do the same thing. You can't necessarily reach up and grab the elbow because I'm not winging that elbow like this, but you can grab my wrist. So reach up and grab that wrist, right? So if the wrist is here across the throat, reach up and grab that wrist, same side, right? Same side wrist, grab, pull it down to create the space. Then you can go 2-on-1 and pull that down, and now they've lost that one side. Now, if they go and hook the other side, that's okay because they need both sides in order to finish this choke. You can't do a 10-finger choke without both sides because you have to kind of turn your wrists in like this. If you don't have that extra support, you can't really do it with the one hand. And it's real easy just to kind of shove your head off the direction that he doesn't have control over, right? So he's going to do this move. He's going to grab. He's going to start to choke you up like this. To stop him, you're going to reach up, and if he's too low, wing yourself, grab, pull the wing down. If you're sprawling, like you should, and you're up a little bit higher, then your arm will come across his trap instead of winging out to his shoulder, making it easier for him to pull on your arm and go for that 2-on-1 transition that I showed right at the beginning, okay? So if you get to this point and go, what 2-on-1 transition? It's at the beginning. Go back to the beginning. You'll see as best as I can with Bob how that works, okay? All right. Once you're in it, it's pretty much done. I mean, it's hard to imagine how to get out of it. Even if you were, I think maybe the only thing you could do if you had the ability, maybe try to do a handstand. Try to do a handstand because of the positioning of the head on the stomach and the extension like this. Maybe you might be able to do a handstand up and out of it, but generally speaking, if you get there, you're pretty dead. There is also the option that if you got the ankle, if you got the ankle right, you might be able to do like a low single before they have a chance to choke you. But it would be very, very quick. It'd be very, very hard, and you'd have to get up on your toes and try to get like a somersault kind of thing or something, because like I said, it's a very powerful choke, that 10-finger choke. So again, the best way to do this is off the sprawl, right? So I sprawl back like so. The hand comes underneath. Notice how it's tucked like this. It's not flared out. It's tucked. Grab the chin. Reach under with the other side. Grab the chin to support. Then what you're going to do, again, you're going to scoop like this. And when you scoop, and you get that scoop, you come up and you just pull their head up like that. Okay. Again, you just need, mainly just need to know that it's there and how to defend it. But remember, and again, the other key point is if I try to go for this 10-finger and I'm not sprawled back, my arm's winging because I got no distance over this to take that slack out. If I give that slack, use that slack. If they give the slack, use that slack. Okay. All right. The other choke I want to talk about is sort of a modified bow and arrow choke. All right. It's very similar to a bow and arrow choke because it uses similar mechanics, but instead of using your knees to create the choke, you're actually going to use your head. You're smart. No, just kidding. You physically use your head to help create the bow shape. Okay. So this is a lapel choke. I wanted to give you one of these today since we had a little bit of time to talk about it. And the way this works is you're going to feed one hand to the other, and then you're going to roll over and finish the choke. Okay. So imagine we're here, right? So on this side, and I'm here. Okay, so I'm actually going to feed this lapel to this hand. This is a common place to be, is this fed lapel to this hand. So instead of trying to grab this wrist like we talked about in some respects, for in the gi, we're going to actually pull this lapel down, grab that slack, and now we're here in this strong turtle position. So you can't see this but very well, but I've grabbed the lapel underneath the head and pulled it here. All right, that's step one. So we've come around the side, right? There's a kind of a trick to that too. But we've come around the side and we grab this lapel, and that's step one. Now we can't do a whole lot here because we're not in position. But to get in position, what we're going to do, we're actually going to reach back and grab these pants, and we're going to roll over our body and head right here. So I'm just going to slide this a little bit, maybe move this back because this roll takes a lot of space. So again, I came to the side here, right? I've gone underneath, but I'm only going underneath to grab this and grab this lapel. So I've grabbed, hard to see with his arm in the way. I've reached underneath, I've taken the slack out like you do with the one side, grab the lapel with the other. All right, so I'm strong here. They can already feel like I'm trying to attack something. They may get worried and try to grab here. So what I'm gonna do then, I'm gonna reach back, I'm gonna grab these pants just like this, and then I'm gonna roll over his body, right? So I'm gonna go like this, boom, and now I'm here, right? And this is where I use my head, not my glasses. I don't want to break those. Let's see who can still see me. So, and actually, if I use the same side, that'll probably be better. Think about it. We'll try that again in a second. And then so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my head and the pants, and I'm going to pull and stretch here. And this is going to create the choke I'm looking for. Okay? So just pull and pull like that, and I'm good to go. Okay? So I'll try to show that one more time. Where are my glasses? Okay. All right. So we'll put Bob back in the right spot, which is here, over like so. And I've transitioned over to the backside. And I'm going to reach underneath the arm. I'm going to pull the lapel down. And I'm going to grab the lapel with my choking hand, like so. Then I'm going to reach back, and I'm going to grab the leg. And it's fine if they actually go over, because if they go over, that's okay, because that's what I want them to do. I grab the leg like this, and I'm going to extend and choke like this. So I'm actually bowing their body while choking them. Hold on. Let's just go. There it is. That's what I did wrong. This should actually be over. I knew I was forgetting something. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. There's the choke. Not the way that I had it. Sorry. I do that sometimes. I get confused by sides. I usually do it from the other side. That's the way Bob was set up. So it's actually across the same side. Or you want to get over the head. So you're actually going to go over the head and roll over that way. Okay. So let me see if I can't figure that out. Okay. All right, you can scratch what I just said. Let me so I can fix that position real quick. Give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Okay. So, yeah, now that I think about it, it may actually work better from, just trying to think here, just trying to visualize from the front. Yeah, that's right. So instead of going back around the side, this is actually going to be from the front. So same kind of scenario, same kind of setup, same kind of situation. You're going to pull the one side and you're going to grip it, but you're actually just going to grip the opposite side. So imagine you're going to inside like this, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull this lapel down, and you're actually going to grab this lapel across, because you want this arm down here like this, because I needed to get across in order to finish the choke. So that's where my confusion set in. Okay, so one more time, just want to finish this before, yeah. So if I'm here, I'm going to tighten this up, and grab that lapel. So now I'm here across the lapel. And then I'm going to, no, it's going to be the other side. It's going to be this side. There we go. So yeah, so I'm going to, it's got to be that side, doesn't it? See, now I'm confused. I apologize. This is a little more of an advanced stroke because of the rolling part and because of the way your arms end up. I was just trying to reverse engineer this this choke. So no. No, it's all right. Get it right the other way. Well, again, I apologize. This is a little embarrassing, as you would think. But again, I will also preface this that turtle is not my favorite position. So I apologize for that specific choke there, but I know it has to do with the way you set this up, and that's the tricky part that I'm trying to remember, and I can't for some reason, so I apologize for that. But that just leads me to the defense that I'll just go over with you real quick. It's not specifically to this choke. It's just a general defensive tip. If somebody reaches in to grab your lapel, you know, the fun thing about that is that they've actually anchored this arm. So you can then start to sit up 2-on-1 and break that off like you would if they were. And so it can be a little tricky sometimes because your opponent can be devious with their chokes. Maybe they're even trying to get you to do something like that. Or if you're out of position, that's another thing, another term that we like to use, not only in Jiu-Jitsu, but just in general games theory. You want to be in position when you do different moves like these. So when your opponent tries to grab a lapel for any reason, like let's say to do a choke, because there is a choke where you can come underneath here and grab this lapel and then grab this arm and come from behind and do this choke, right? That's a choke from the rear mounted position. But there are lots of reasons to grab a lapel, and most of the time they are aggressive and assertive. So you don't want to, if you can help it, either let your opponent grab a lapel and hold on to it. All right. Like I said, look at it like this. If I'm here and I grab this lapel, and you stand up like this to try to pop it off, or even just turn to push it off, you haven't lost anything. See, if you can get up to do it, you haven't lost anything because this arm is over here, right? I haven't attacked you. So if I get this under here and I pull this lapel down to try to go for a choke, it's not harmful for you if you sit yourself up, put 2 on 1 here, pop that off, and then even use that to like bring this arm over or control this arm as you make your moves or whatever. That can be detrimental for me if I'm not good at what I'm doing. So that's if I go for a choke like that. And that's not even, like I said, that's just anybody could go for a choke like that, and that would be a good response. So just remember, it's all about when you're breaking. We'll do 2 on 1 grips a little bit later, but it's all about breaking that grip. If somebody has that grip on you, you go 1, 2, and you pull back, you push forward at the same time. And I can do that with like a pistol grip, which is pretty common to grab like up here like this, or I can grab fingers like that. Either way, it's good. So anyway, thank you for that. I will be a little more prepared tomorrow with what I'm doing in terms of chokes, and hopefully I can figure out why that wasn't working correctly. And I will show it again tomorrow with the correct movements. And yeah, thank you for coming and sticking around, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And have a good one, guys.